my gift to you all today is to talk about self-worth and how just some simple shifts in the way that you think can upgrade your self-worth in such a huge way. I do have to share a little bit about myself and my growing up so that you can sort of grasp how they're built. Our self-image and our self-worth and the way we see ourselves is all built by the time we're 6 or 7 years of age. It is improved on after that sometimes it's deteriorating after that as well, depending on what the environment is that you're living in. If you're here, say hi. So by the time I was 6 or 7, money was something that caused arguments in our family. And if you could save parents money, then you were worth more to them than if you cost money. And my mum used to, and still does, makes a lot of clothes. That was not looked on as a privilege. It was more looked on as a cost-saving activity. And I think the satisfaction was not, Happy Mother's Day, everybody. The satisfaction was not taken into account. It was the cost saving of it all. And coming from a broken home, and maintenance had to be paid and those sorts of things, and money was quite tight. So my whole worthiness came from how much money I could earn, and if I could earn more than my parents had ever earned or whatever, I was doing well. And a lot of other things, like it was a really warped way that my self-image was formed and my worth of myself. So I want you just to think about a few things. How was your growing up? How was your worth built? So I was celebrated if I saved my parents any money, and if I did things that either brought in some income or saved them money. And I've always been very creative with my hands and making stuff. So once I started doing this work, I realized I had a lot of my self-worth tied up with money and with achieving and with being able to purchase things and the income that I could create. And like I said, sometimes it can be a little bit warped. I'm not saying that it's wrong or right, but it just, sometimes if we're not earning the money, then our self-worth goes down. We look at ourselves more poorly and maybe less than. So of course, whatever you're thinking about, that's what gets created. So if I'm thinking poorly of myself, I'm getting poor results, and I'm getting, not just in a monetary value, but I look at myself poorly. So then I would get comments from people to say, oh, you didn't do this very well or whatever. And then that would just degrade my self-worth and my self-image. So I had to start to look at things a little differently. So the first place I started to looking at myself and my worth differently was, I thought, you know what? Because I did my deb ball when I was 16, and my mum made my dress because it was cheaper to make it than it was to buy it. So my worth, which was just like, they're tied together. And I'd already established that when we made clothes, it was because it was cheaper. So I wasn't worth buying a brand new dress and spending $600 or $700 or whatever that would have been back there. It was a lot cheaper to get mine made. So then, when I started this work, I thought, well, how can our belief system can be changed when we reevaluate. So I started looking at all the things that I looked at as I was growing up that kept my self-image and my self-worth low, and thought, how could I change that? Because if I can reevaluate situations, I can change my belief about them. So then I thought, well, my mum stayed up till sometimes 1 or 2 in the morning making that dress, and it was made for me. And I don't know if any of you have ever looked into getting a dress purposely made to fit you, how much that would cost. It doesn't have to be a very reputable place that you get it from, but I got bridesmaids dresses made when I was getting married, and they were like $500 or $600 with the material and the making of them, and I thought, wow, that's a bloody rip-off. That's my first thought, and I actually probably voiced that. But then when I started doing this work, I thought, you know what? We don't value time enough. We don't value the time that people put in enough. We just, well, I did, went for how much it was going to cost, and I wanted to get them the cheapest way. So then after that I thought, well, I had so many clothes custom made to fit me. I had a custom designer, which was priceless compared to any of the clothes that you could buy off the shelf, because a lot of the times I didn't quite fit. Even now, I buy a lot of, I'm a size 6, sometimes smaller. I buy a lot of clothes, and I have to, because I'm not very broad across the shoulders, I have to get them taken up, and they're like, it's $100 an outfit sometimes to get that done. And I thought, oh my goodness. Now, not only was my worth diminished when I thought about the dressmaking side of things, actually, my mum's was too, because she only valued her time in a fraction because of what she would pay. And I've told my mum this plenty of times, Mum, you need to up your prices a bit, because other people are charging this to get something hemmed and you're charging $10. Like, you need to upgrade your self-worth there. What she does with that is up to her. So once I changed that a bit, I'm like, okay, so my parents loved and thought I was so worthy to stay up and do amazing things for me. So straight away my worth would change. Just when I was in Adelaide last week and the week before, in the middle of all that move, my daughter says, hey Mum, we bought this table and chairs, and I never liked the colour of them, and I was always going to paint them. Do you think we can paint them before we move into the new place? Yeah, why not? So we were up until 11, 12 o'clock at night painting this furniture before we moved. Just doesn't need a bit of touch up from the move. But what I want you to think about is, how valuable is your time? Mother's Day today. I don't think any presents that any of us received is as valuable as the time that people take to, like my kids, to send me a text, to give me a hug. No gift, no amount of money could replace any of the memories and the moments that I have with my children. So I want you to think about, instead of gauging your worth from a monetary side of thing, how much time are people investing in seeing you, in taking the time to text you or ring you and have a bit of time with you? Because time really is our only commodity. We work for time, a lot of us. We work for an hourly rate maybe, or a contract of a certain amount of time. Just have a think. What's your time worth? And how much are other people expending their time to spend with you? Engage your worth from there. And remember, just because it was formed when you are 6 or 7 doesn't mean it has to stay that way. You can upgrade your self-worth in the click of your fingers, in just one re-evaluation. Hey Kamahi, all you have to do is go, I am worthy of the good that I desire. Doesn't matter what it is, because you're worth it. And if time is all we have, really, what are you doing with yours? Are you spending it the way you want to spend it today and every day? I just did a training last week, and Sandy really reminded me of what Steve Jobs said, was, if I wake up more than a few days in a row and I'm not happy about how I'm going to spend my day, I stop. So have a think about that. Are you happy with how you're spending your day? Don't put your worth down by doing things that you don't want to do just to put things on the table. If you really enjoy what you're doing, the money will come, because it has to, because you're worth it. All right, that was my little bit for you today. If anybody wants to talk about self-image and if you need me to help you with yours, let me know.